Hey everyone, I'm Lisa. If you're a tutor who gets students but loses them, if you are a tutor who wants to spend less time outside of your lesson hours preparing for your actual lessons, which are unpaid by the way, if you're a tutor who is looking to quit your job, go part-time or even full-time into your tutoring business, then this channel is for you. Hey, I'm Lisa. I am a tutoring business owner. I have over 50 tutors who work with me and we service 200 students each year one-on-one. So on this channel, I share with you my advice on how to build your tutoring business, but also I share with you the behind the scenes of me currently building out my own business. So if you like to hear, please subscribe to this channel because I'm shooting out weekly videos. Plus I'm on Instagram and TikTok if you want to see even more of the behind the scenes of me growing out my business. First, we're going to cover video conferencing platforms. Then we're going to talk about how you can troubleshoot on these video conferencing platforms like Zoom, like Webby when things go wrong. Third, we're going to cover some of the best collaborative software you can use with your students. And four, I'll give you some teaching tips specifically for tutoring online. Let's get into it. So I want to share with you 4 of my favorite video conferencing platforms. The first one is Webby. I personally love using Webby. It's free for you. Your students don't need to create an account as well. And all it really is you set up a room using a unique URL. So you create something like Lisa Tran Tutoring, let's say, and then you send your student that URL and they can just jump on. They don't need to set up any account. So this is really easy if you have students who maybe aren't as tech savvy, if you would just rather send them something super straightforward and for you to basically have a no fuss method of jumping online together. It has the chat function as well. It's got sharing functions so you can share your screen. The only thing it doesn't have is file sharing features, which means that if you need to send any files, you just want to do that over email. The next one is Zoom, which everybody knows Zoom, especially post-COVID. So I don't think I need to go into too much detail here, but the only thing is to say that with Zoom, what happens is for group calls, you aren't allowed to go over 40 minutes. So either your tutoring session needs to be shorter than 40 minutes, or if it is longer for group sessions, then you will need to pay for the actual software itself. Often though, I find that for tutoring, there are so many different amazing software available, especially Webby, which is my #1, where I haven't needed to pay for any of the features I've needed to use at all. The next one is Skype. So with Skype, the student doesn't need an account to join in on the call, but the benefit with Skype is that there is file sharing capabilities, which both Webby and Zoom don't have. So really at the end of the day, I'd say when it comes to all of these, it's more so just comparing the features and finding out which one best suits you. Then you've got Google Hangouts, which hopefully you also are familiar with, but with this one, you just need to have a Gmail account, and the benefit is that it's nicely integrated with G Suite as well. So if you use a lot of Google Docs or Google Sheets, then this is when it would come in super handy with you. One thing that I'll also add is that a lot of schools tend to use Zoom or Google Hangouts. So that's maybe a reason why you would go onto those platforms, because your students may be more familiar with it. But honestly, these days, students are pretty tech savvy. So feel free to experiment and find out which one best works for you. Now let's move into the troubleshooting element. So when it comes to online tutoring, there's always going to be a little bit of a barrier when it comes to internet connection, lagginess, and just really helping to establish that human connection. We kind of need to go on that extra level to make sure that we're able to conduct the best tutoring class we can. So if you ever have lagginess or connection is always dropping out, always make sure that you actually have a phone call with that student concurrently with your video conferencing. So what I do is I'd actually call my student beforehand and have them on the call on my phone, but also have my video present, just so that way if there's any disconnection, if anything goes on, at least I've always got them on my phone. When you do this though, you just need to make sure that you don't have twice the amount of your audio going through to the other side, because it will bounce back. So what you should do is mute yourself on this end here. Another point of consideration to have is if you have a lot of people using your internet at home and that actually slows down your internet speed or it makes the connection quite poor, then you want to actually let the other people in your house know that this is the time that you're tutoring and to ask them if it's okay for them to ease off on the internet usage, especially if they're doing downloads, for example, or even going into meetings themselves. Now, the third tip I'll give here is if you are finding that your internet connection is really poor, switch yourself to hotspot. So I always, whenever I find that my end is getting laggy, so I can see that I'm freezing on screen, what I'll do is I'll go into the settings on my phone and then I'll actually go to personal hotspot and turn that on. So I'll be able to find my personal hotspot here. It should come up at some point. So this is me, pretty Wi-Fi for a Wi-Fi. I thought I was being really funny there, but I'm not that funny. But if you're noticing that the person on the other side is lagging and they're freezing, that's when you know that hopefully they can switch the hotspot if they can as well. Now let's talk about collaborative software. So here are some of my favorite ways to interact with students online. There's Miro, which is basically just a blank page for you to start doing anything on. Whether it's sticky notes, you could do flowcharts, you can brainstorm and write notes. You basically start with a blank slate and you can do whatever you want on it, which makes it a super creative space to deliver your content online. Another option is Ziteboard, which is essentially the same thing, but just a different software. Otherwise, you could go for app.diagrams.net, which is just another platform for you to be able to create flowcharts, create diagrams with your students. Honestly, if you just wanted to write up into Google, flowchart apps, then you'd better find a whole host of different apps that would work for you. As you can see, Miro comes out. I've used Lucidchart as well before. Try an experiment to see which one best suits you. I also personally really love using just your good old simple Google Docs. The student can open up the same page as you on their end, and whenever you type, they can see it and you can see it in live time. Now I want to help you with 3 main pointers to help you teach online, because it is slightly different from teaching in person. The first thing is whenever you're teaching online, make sure that you have all your files ready to go before the actual session. This way it stops that awkwardness or that time that might feel wasted for a student if you're sort of going through and sifting through your content to try to get up the right thing for them. Plan ahead, and that way your lesson feels a lot more streamlined and they'll really feel like they get true value out of that lesson with you. The second thing is to signpost what you're doing. So what I would do when I'm reading out my essays to my students is instead of just reading it and then telling them the feedback, I'd actually read it out loud, word by word, so they can see exactly where I'm at. In person, the equivalent would be to go through and have that pen on paper so they can actually see you reading through, but they don't have that visual element when they're online with you. They can only see you looking at the screen. So make sure that you're actually verbalizing what you're doing. If you're not an English tutor, think about the ways that you would do this in your own subject, or even just if you're switching software. So if you're saying, hey, we're going to move now from Webby into Miro, at least then that transition period where you're doing something, they know what you're doing, and so when they're sitting there waiting for you, they're not just like, okay, what is she doing right now? The third thing is if you do experience any connection issues, just make sure that you don't get frustrated on screen. So if people freeze, then you don't know when they're going to come back to you. So I wouldn't go, oh, God damn it, or anything like that. Just wait by patiently. And I think that's sort of the mentality you want to go with in terms of any online tutoring. Try not to bombard or overload people by talking too much either. Take that step back and take things a little bit slower, because I think sometimes there's that slight 1 or 2 second lag time. And so you want to make sure that you don't cut off your students accidentally, especially since you want to create that environment where they feel comfortable where they've got that safe space to be able to freely express themselves. Now, if you're somebody who's looking to grow your business, I have a free masterclass called the 3-Step Framework to Building a 6-Figure Tutoring Career, where I share with you the top 3 mistakes tutors make when starting out in their business, or even not just starting out, but just even in general, trying to grow their business, why they actually get stuck, and how you can actually become unstuck with a lot of the problems that tutors have in growing their income. I've helped quite a few of my Tutor Boss clients grow their incomes, some by even 66%, and really be able to create a lifestyle that they want to live, not just creating a business that's going to suck more time out of their life, because we don't want to create a prison of our own making. We're searching for freedom in what we want. And so if you're somebody who is looking for that, then make sure you check out the link. Next week, I'll be talking about how you can start a tutoring business in 2022, because we are right up until the end of the year. So I can't wait to give you updated advice on what it's like to start a business now. And even if you're somebody who has already started your business, make sure you watch it, because I'm sure I'm going to give you some handy up-to-date pointers. All right, guys, I will see you next week. Bye.